It's the Lost Years Pod. Lost Years Pod. Running through this show called Boy Meets World is what we're doing. Syd and Tay are your friends who will always stand by you. It's the Lost Years Pod.
Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Lost Years of Retrospective Fancast. I'm Tay.
And I'm Syd.
And this is our first episode.
Woo!
Cool. So I feel like we should start by just talking about specifically what the podcast is and like our history with basically the show. It's specifically a Boy Meets World recap podcast as of right now.
Yeah, we love the 90s.
We love the 90s. We were both born in the 90s. So for me, Boy Meets World is my favorite show of all time. I watch Boy Meets World like people watch The Office.
Do you really?
Yeah, just like on repeat. I have a lot of the episodes just like in my brain, living there rent free. It was a lot harder before they put it on Disney Plus, but now that it's on Disney Plus, I just like turn it on when I don't have anything else to watch. That and the Avatar, but that's a whole different thing.
Also a good show.
Also a really good show, yes.
Oh boy. I, on the other hand, did not watch Boy Meets World. I've seen, before this podcast started, I'd probably seen 5 episodes. Really minimal, though. Do not know the plot.
This is great for me.
I'm excited to actually watch it.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it with someone who has, like, not the same amount of history as I do with it. So that's going to be, I'm excited. I'm really excited. I think we should start by talking about the show itself. So it aired, the premiere aired in 1993, September 24th, between Family Matters and Step by Step. The show was specifically written around Ben Savage to follow his older brother Fred Savage, The Wonder Years, which was like an 80s show, I'm pretty sure. I don't know anything about The Wonder Years.
Oh, The Wonder Years is a great show. I could not tell you real details about it, like when it came out or anything, but I'd seen episodes. I've probably seen more episodes of The Wonder Years than I have Boy Meets World, and that came out way before, so I don't know what happened there. But it's...
You like Fred Savage more. That's really what happened.
Yeah, it's also just a coming-of-age show.
For sure. ABC sold it specifically as a show about life seen through the eyes of an 11-year-old boy. And the show ran for 7 years. It's a pre-9/11 show.
Oh my, like fully.
It ended in 2000. Like, what does that mean for the show? I don't know. We can figure it out when we get into later seasons.
Oh man. Yeah, when I had realized that the show came out in 93, that is nearly, actually it's over 2 years before I was born, so.
It was the year I was born. It was 4 months before I was born.
Oh man, that makes me feel young and old at the same time.
At the same time, yeah, it's very strange. In the first season, the cast was Ben Savage as Corey, William Daniels as George Feeney, Betsy Randall as Amy, Corey's mom, Will Friedle as Eric, Corey's brother, Ryder Strong as Sean, Corey's best friend, Lee Norris as Stuart Minkus. He's not in the first episode, but he does have billing in the credits, which is interesting. And Lily Nixie as Morgan, and then William Russ as Alan, Corey's dad. Morgan was his little sister. Sorry, I didn't say that.
How dare you not get this little trivia fact?
Oh my god, it's our first episode.
Here's another fun fact just about this first episode.
Yes.
Found out the original title of the pilot is called Brother's Keeper.
Oh yeah.
Which is funny because no shows really, to my knowledge, the first episode never has a title.
Yeah, it's always just pilot.
Now here's another thing about the term pilot as the first episode. When I was growing up, I remember watching a show and thinking that was the title and thinking it was going to have to do something with airlines and or pilots. And so in the episode, I'm pretty sure it was iCarly, when it had nothing to do with pilots, I was very confused. And that is when I learned that that's just what they're all called. So
I don't know when I ever realized specifically that is what the first episode of TV shows were called, but I probably was also confused by the fact that it didn't have planes in it.
yeah, it really threw me.
Yeah.
I felt like something did not connect in my mind. So it's fun to hear that this actually did have a working title, because that's not normal.
Yeah. It's different for sure. I remember that being a thing. Like, I feel like when the episode has shown on reruns, it shows the alternate title sometimes. Because I used to watch it. They played it in Syndicate on ABC Family all the time. Mm-hmm. So I watched a lot of it on that channel too. And I remember Brothers Keeper being the title.
Interesting. I love it.
Me too. I'm excited. Okay, so the IMDb synopsis is: Corey is caught listening to the Phillies game in class while Feeney is trying to teach the class about love. Eric decides to take his girlfriend on their first date to the Phillies game instead of Corey, so Corey decides to live in his treehouse. That's the whole episode.
Yeah, it's really short and sweet and to the point.
Yeah, so this cold open.
Okay.
Straight into the action.
Yeah, immediately from the beginning, I was nostalgic for the 90s. Whatever music that they were playing.
Yeah, the school music.
Yeah, it's like the school music, but it's also just the season 1 intro music, or maybe it keeps going on, but immediately just sends you back. So that, I felt like I was ready to go.
Just bathed in nostalgia. So it's Feeney and Corey in the morning cafeteria. And Feeney is buying a coffee. Corey's buying a candy bar. And Mr. Feeney is like, why are you eating a candy bar for breakfast? And he just says something precocious immediately.
Yeah, I did write it down because the vocabulary of this child who's 11 years old, I could not believe some of the things that were coming out of his mouth. Because in response to Feeney, he said, well, you're sucking down that high vitamin astronaut juice. I was like, I kind of want to keep calling that coffee from now on. Yeah, immediately just like, this is their place. This is how they're going to interact throughout the whole show. I can already tell that right from the beginning.
Yeah, I loved the astronaut suck up, something you should try. And they're like, huh. He goes over to his little friends.
Not even sure if this is going to go in the podcast. The vending machines in the background. There's like the candy one, and then there's another one that's just apples and oranges. And it was
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. If you can go back and watch this, like, I was so thrown because in the background there's just this huge vending machine just stocked with apples and oranges, and I kid you not, there's like 100, and like it really threw me. And like, did those exist? Am I not aware of these vending machines?
I mean, I never had fruit vending machines in
middle
school, much less like high school.
Wouldn't they go bad? Like, kids already, I feel like they're not even going to go straight for the fruit, so.
Definitely not. I mean, clearly not. Corey got a candy bar. So he goes over to this table. This starts this whole monologue first guest, like back and forth between Corey and his friends, trying to decide who stayed up later. Mm-hmm. And I remember like first watching this as a kid and being like, I don't know what any of these words mean. And then realizing it's like, oh, it's a late show. It's like a Tonight Show. And the person that they reference specifically is Steve Lawrence, who when I looked up, seems like a person who was too old to be existing in the 90s, but he regularly appeared with his wife Edie as a duo on Tonight Starring Steve Allen, which was the first late night talk show. Mm. So might have been, I mean, I don't know if it's reruns of that or if it's just some sort of late show and they're kind of referencing this person, but all of his friends were so excited Corey and his friend was so excited when the third nameless child said,
yeah, who was that kid?
we can specifically get into this kid in episode 4 because there's a thing with the third kid in Corey and Sean's friend group that happens, but I don't want to spoil it.
Lovely.
something to look forward to for you and our listeners.
Oh yeah.
So when it goes into the opening credits, the bell rings and it goes into the opening credits. And how do you feel about these opening credits?
I mean, there are a lot. I don't know what they were going for with the season 1.
It's very unclear what they're going for here.
There's a lot. I mean, when all the names of the cast members are even thrown on the screen, like, they each have some distinguishing thing about them. I think, like, the mom has, like, a Band-Aid.
Oh, yeah. She's putting a Band-Aid on Corey's forehead, which he then takes off in the next section of the opening credits, and things just fly out of his forehead, which is confusing.
I think, like, Feeney has a large pencil. Like, I mean, that's very given. He's a teacher. But, I mean, they're just interesting. I feel like whoever the design people were like, what's a kid's mind like? Just, let's make that into opening credits.
Chaos? Is it chaos? Let's just make that credits.
There's one part where the music kind of breaks down and it's like a country western all of a sudden, but it's like Corey's dancing that's not actually dancing. He's just moving backwards. It's all confusing. But the music is mostly 90s sounding, like the retro. I don't even know how to describe that, like, tone or music type.
I don't either.
Every time I try and reference it, I'm just like, 90s?
90s? It's 90s.
What do you think the 90s sound like?
Sounds like the 90s to me? I don't know. Feels like nostalgia.
Another note I wrote down here is all their clothes are too damn big for them.
They're all so big. Yeah, nobody wore clothes that fit in the 90s. That was definitely a distinctive figure or factor of the 90s. Was everybody's clothes were too big for them.
Yeah, just throughout the whole show, there's like vests that are worn. I mean, it's the fashion of the day, but at the same time, I don't know why, it just looks so silly now. It's like when you find stuff back from early 2000s, you're like, why did we wear that?
Why did we think this was good? It's not good. It's weird.
Same thing, but since it's about 20 years old, or almost 20 years old at this point, it feels a little bit more okay. Yeah, that's weird too. I just dated both of us.
I went into a small existential crisis. I mean, the show is about, the pilot rather, is about as old as I am, so.
Wait, oh my god. I just said 20, it's like 30.
You did, it's almost 30,
no.
Dude. It's okay. We'll get through this together.
I'm not doing fine. Oh boy, okay.
We'll get there.
It's fine.
Just a moment. Just take a moment. Relish in our old age. We're not old. It's fine. But you feel just like impending death when you think about how old other things are comparatively to you.
Ooh, okay. Chills. We're fine.
Anyway.
Post opening credits. We're going to class.
Yes, we're in the classroom. Something I noticed specifically about the show a lot, being that it is a show about a white family, is when there are people of color in it. Mm-hmm. So this is the first person of color, this little black girl, seen in class after the opener, and I love her. She's hilarious. I wish she had a name.
She's just, doesn't she play Juliet?
Yeah, she's playing Juliet. The little boy, the third kid in Corey and Sean's friend group, is
third boy
is the third nameless boy. I think Mr. Feeney gives, like, he has a last name, but I don't remember what it is. I didn't write it down. It's not important. We never see this child again, I promise. So they're in class trying to learn about Romeo and Juliet. There's like some sort of weird reenactment that is, I think, wrong.
It's not correct.
But Corey's listening to the baseball game on his, like, portable radio, the way I used to listen to my iPod in class. Just hand against my ear, leaning on my desk, which is fantastic.
Let me tell you, when he was also listening to it, I knew in my mind that because it was an old show, it had the cord, like, headphone, just because that's in the past. But at the same time, the cord had, like, slightly disappeared. Like, it was the same color as his jacket, but the headphone itself was white, and I was like, those are not AirPods.
Oh no, he's got AirPods in.
What happened? It's 93. He shouldn't have AirPods. What is an iPad?
Time.
I was just going to say, Feeney deciding to give children knives, also at age 11, just be like, hey, let's reenact this death that didn't happen this way. It was a choice.
Here's a fake knife, and I'm going to turn my back on you. and just address some other children in the classroom.
Here's a knife, but Corey, do you have a radio?
So then his radio gets taken by Feeney, and they have some banter back and forth. And this is my first big laugh of the episode, which is Feeney is yelling at him. I can't remember everything that Feeney says, but something about like the greatest love story of our time regarding Romeo and Juliet. And Corey says, "Are you aware that I'm only 11 years old?"
I wrote down that line too, because I was like, Corey, who do you think you are?
So precocious.
The way, like, literally just the way that he talks back to Feeney. I, like, I don't know, the whole time I was like, I would never speak to my teachers this way. I don't know if it was...
I can't imagine being 11 and then just saying whatever to teachers. So he gets detention. And then we switch to the next scene, which is where we're properly introduced to his family. And we get a lot of background in like a 3-minute scene. We know that Corey and Eric share a room. We know that Corey is 4 years older, or Eric is 4 years older than Corey. That they live next door to Feeney. That their younger sister is as equally precocious as Corey is, but she's like 5 or 6. And that his parents are firm but loving. Just like this wholesome nuclear family.
I had a moment when they did go into the household where I looked at it and I thought, the set layout of this looks like Full House. And then, like, 30 seconds later, Corey basically says something referencing Full House in a 90s show.
Yeah.
I was like, what timing?
Which is funny because I'm 90% sure Full House was airing at this time too. So it like places it in a very real world in which Full House was probably coming on before or after this show.
That's amazing.
Which is fun.
I love it. I love the little nods to other pop culture.
That house is a lot. They had the like 2 separate staircases, one from the kitchen and one from the living room.
Yeah, it was weird.
And that swinging door, that swinging like kitchen door. Oh my God, I've never thought about
it. It was really strange. And then also because like Eric and Corey are both sharing a room too.
Like DJ and Stephanie.
Also on the same side of the house. Like it really threw me the whole time. But everyone's got a nice big family that gets along in the 90s.
Can't relate.
My family was small.
My family didn't get along.
We cannot relate to this show.
This is my escape.
Oh.
So he's in the bedroom with Eric. There's a lot of fun banter where they're talking about who's going to the baseball game that Eric got tickets to. Eric is in the 10th grade. I don't feel like I was going on solo dates at 14, 15, which is fascinating. Like, how is he getting to the... He's definitely not driving yet. I'm like 90% sure he's not driving yet.
I didn't even think about that.
Just something I thought about. He's like, I'm the coolest guy in the 10th grade or something like that.
Because he's going out with, what's her name? Heather
something. So then he goes down. He's like yelling. He's yelling a lot in this scene. Just like full body, big gesture yelling, Corey is, about how upset he is that his brother's not going to take him to the baseball game. But I really loved when he comes down into the living room and he's like, I have news, like we have to talk about this. And his mom has said, you have detention with Mr. Feeney. And he goes, how could you possibly know that? That made me laugh out loud. It's extremely good. So they're just yelling about Feeney living next door and how he wants to move, Corey does, because he shouldn't live next door to his principal. And basically his parents say, listen, he can go with who he wants. He bought those tickets for himself. Morgan says some more precocious things. That's the Full House line. He's like, I don't understand the emotional content of Full House. And Morgan says, I do. And it's very cute. Then we move into the second lunchroom scene where Corey and his two friends, these actual 11-year-old children, are trying to go to a baseball game by themselves and buy tickets from random scalpers. The 90s was a different time.
Apparently, this is weird. I did write down like two different things from this scene, which is just the casual talking of going down to the game as sixth graders. Like, I can't fathom that at all. I was so nervous to do anything. I was a child. And then also...
But, like, how would they be allowed is my question.
Yeah, that shouldn't be okay. But also just, like, the teachers eating in the cafeteria?
Yes. Why?
Why?
Is there not a teacher's lounge for you to go to?
It's just, like, they always just look uncomfortable with all the kids around them. It's like, you can leave. You don't have to eat here.
And also, then he was, like, very annoyed that Corey came to talk to him. Like, you're technically in his space.
You don't have to be here, Feeny.
You could be somewhere else.
Ugh.
Also, that scene ends very abruptly.
Mm-hmm.
To me, like, it's, oh, I'm sure he doesn't hate you. Weird smiles, corny music, end scene. Like...
And that's it.
And that's it.
And now we go to the treehouse.
Go into the treehouse. Corey is unnecessarily rude to his very sweet sister.
Yes. The mom is also... I love her.
She's great.
I love that she supports him running away. Just she's very like, casually.
I brought you some dinner.
I just think, for what I've seen thus far, the family's just so kind to Corey. And for what? He's such...
a really generously loving family.
He's such, like, a little shit back to them. For what?
So this is my favorite scene in the whole episode coming up, where Feeny, it looks like he's setting up to have a dinner date. And I think that scene is shot so well because it's completely silent. There's, like, nothing happening. Corey is just watching. And Feeny gets a phone call. He sounds a little bit disappointed, and then he takes the second plate away from his dining room table and, like, has salad by himself, and Corey eats his dinner that his mom brought him. And I just love that scene because it's very simple. It's not a lot of, like, trying to explain to the audience what's happening. Like, I love when shows are just like, you are a smart person, you can understand this and not talk down to us. Like, I love that scene.
Yeah.
The music kicks in. It's just, like, very nice.
I was gonna say, the music choice for it does do the very kind of sad, somber tones.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you are supposed to learn something here. That is this moment for the show. And yeah. I love poor little Feeny.
I love Feeny.
He's just such a sweet man.
He's got some boundary issues, but he cares.
He has fancy china for his little date. It doesn't happen. Yeah. Just wants some love. The whole episode's about love.
The whole episode is about love. We'll get to that. So now we're in the second bedroom scene. Corey's mom sticks him up with, like, a little toy gun that's in his room. Jokes about the kid they rented his bed out to, which is adorable.
Yeah, she's just the best. She's so fun. She always has great advice.
She's a wonderful mom, and I adore her. And so then they have, like, a moment on the bed where Corey is still lamenting being, like, forgotten about. And his mom is like, well, you kind of did the same thing to your dad. And it's natural that people grow up and priorities change. I literally wrote down Corey's mom is very good. Because I just love her.
See, my notes were just, the mom! Exclamation point.
The mom! Amy's the best!
She's so kind.
Yeah.
She just wants the best for her kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in a fun way.
Yeah, she's wonderful. So we go into the next detention scene. Next scene in the classroom. Corey does a whole bit where he tries to leave. Some very good physical comedy for him. Where he literally leaves the room and then comes back, slams the door and says, Mr. Feeny, this stinks. Which I just love. It's so great. He does, like, a little dance. Like, it's extremely good. Well written, like, kid, because he knows he can't actually leave, and so he pushes it as far as he can before being like, I have to come back. And I love that. I just really love that.
I also did love that Feeny just does not care that entire time.
does not a single care.
Which is so great because, I mean, honestly, that is how kids learn a lot of the time. Just let them do their own thing. Let them figure out if it's good or bad. In this case, it's not great what Corey's doing, but Feeney's like, no.
He specifically wanted a reaction, and Feeney did not give him one. And so he's like, well,
look at that. And then Corey learned something.
Yeah. So we go into this speech from William Daniels, who is phenomenal throughout the course of this whole show. But he's like a very good actor, and I really appreciate what he did in this scene. Just like very serious. The line, "You are going to learn something from me. Do I have your attention?" And Corey says, "Yes, sir."
Yeah.
So sweet. I love. So the lesson that he wants to teach is that human connection is the most important thing. But the implication is that romantic love is the most important thing, which is not correct. In my opinion, personally, but it's the 90s. Like, who cares?
Yeah, I just think throughout this entire scene, I mean, the whole episode to this point, I felt like the writing had been great. I feel like the writing in this moment was so incredible, and it just kind of sets the tone for the rest of the show. I have like 3 different quotes that are just written down here because I loved him so much. Corey, when he's even like talking to Feeney, and it's like specifically about the Romeo and Juliet scene, and like he's trying to teach him to think with love. He says like, "You tell us love is worth killing yourself for, but you don't actually believe that, do you?" And I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, so that's really good, because then he reveals that he saw him having that dinner by himself in kind of the worst possible way, but that's what kind of sets Feeney off, I guess, in a weird way. And he is like, I now need to teach this child something. I mean, kind of about boundaries, but also he's 11, so he's gonna see his teacher, and he's like, my teacher.
Well, and I love that too, because there's another line that's actually from Feeney's perspective, like right after that I wrote down. Because, I mean, like we established earlier, Corey does suck a bit when it comes to just
he's a kid.
Anything. But yeah, he's 11.
Kids kind of suck in general.
But because he likes to believe that, you know, he does have things figured out because he's 11, and that's just an attitude I feel like a lot of people definitely did have also in middle school.
Absolutely.
Which is funny to look back at now, because what the hell did I know? Nothing.
Literally nothing.
But Feeney's line was, "How blissful to have lived so little, but already created your own conclusions of the universe." Like, he just took what I even, like, kind of tried to say, and the writing just made it so beautiful and eloquent. Artistic. And it's great. But, yeah. There is a different line that I also had written down that was just about kind of just love, what you were talking about earlier, but it's like there's no greater aspiration than to have love in our lives, Mr. Matthews. And like, it's sweet.
Yeah, it's nice.
Just from the first episode, it's just fairly nice. It's family strength and like the ties from the beginning. They're there.
Absolutely.
We're just establishing. It's great.
And then this scene also ends extremely abruptly. This particular detention is over. End of scene. Music to the next scene. And he goes in, he tries to sneak in, and Morgan is sitting at her little tea set. Bus him, calls his dad in. And Corey apologizes for blowing him off for his friends. And his dad kind of noticed, right? But like, he's like, well, I'm happy you have friends, Corey. Which I think is cute. But it's a very cute moment. And they have a little hug. On to the next scene.
Yeah.
Oh, he says, wait, I forgot to touch on this thing where he references the boy that he's like, I want my own room back. And they're like, well, I'm sad we're going to take this income hit or something along those lines of like renting the room out. It's like, oh, yeah, I think we'll get by, which I thought is very funny. I did love that when he ended up having a little tea party with Morgan, he's like, can I join? And she like chucked her doll just to the side. Oh yeah, that's later.
Oh, that's
the second tea party scene, which is fantastic. I can't wait to talk about that one too.
Great, cool.
But so then he's back in his bedroom. Eric had his date. He comes back, Corey's shooting his little game. And Eric is sad because his date went poorly.
Oh, yeah.
And so...
We've been there.
Yeah. We've all had these moments. So then Corey is like, yeah, you don't need her. And Eric's like, you're right, I don't. And then Corey's like, you don't mean that. And he's like, yeah, I do. Sure I do. He's like, call her. Take her to a movie. And Corey's like leaving the room. And Eric says something like, why do you want me to call her? And Corey says, I'm told love is worth it. And then just like throws his hands in the air like multiple times. And I died laughing because it's so like all of his, he's just like a kid, very clearly like acting to camera and to like an audience. And it's so funny how much like physical comedy he is doing with his body anytime he's having any like quote unquote big emotion, which is great.
Absolutely.
So then he goes on stage. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd also written down that line. I feel like a lot of Corey's lines in particular and just how he acts are all different, like, reaction texts or, like, reaction pics that I'd love to just send today.
Just memes.
Which I don't know what that says about life today versus then, but...
Everything's a meme these days.
That's all.
That's the lesson. Everything's a meme.
Everything's a meme.
So yeah,
the 90s.
The 90s.
One big meme.
He goes downstairs and Morgan doesn't say anything to him at first. So then he asks her, like, are you going to ask me to have tea with you? And then, yeah, she chucks her doll to the floor, which is extremely good.
Love it.
And so they have this tea party. And Morgan, their mom comes out and is like, time for bed. And Corey's like, can we finish our tea first? And she said, yeah, are you volunteering to put your sister to bed? And he's like, I guess I am. And I can't remember. I wrote down, because I don't understand anything, but I don't remember what the context for that was.
I had written down that I don't understand anything about my entire life. And I was like, same.
This is
a real mood. I do not remember what it was from.
Oh, yeah. I think his mom like asked him why he's volunteering to do it, I think. And he says, because I don't understand anything about my entire life. And then Morgan gives him a little kiss on the cheek. He says, never stop inviting me to your tea parties, basically, no matter how old I get. And so then Morgan gives him a kiss on the cheek and he's like, sure, fine, sure. Yeah, okay. And I think that's technically the end of the episode. We have like an outro credits scene, another cafeteria scene. So they're in the cafeteria again, and Corey and his friends are talking about how the one teacher that Mr. Feeney had been seen with, the older like female teacher he'd been seen with all episode, he like asks her to dinner. And so then as they're like throwing stuff away by Corey's table, he said, Feeney mentions how he prepared a salad for his sister who who ended up having to cancel at the last minute. And he goes to Mr. Matthews. I wrote down Mr. Matthews. He goes to Corey and he says, confused, Mr. Matthews. And Corey said, yes, sir. And he said, as it should be. And that's the end of the episode.
It's just so nice. I do love when shows, I know that there's probably going to be the plot lines in the future where they all like kind of start, not like fully weaving together, but like overarching things just weaving.
Yeah, bigger narratives.
Love the simplicity of just old, especially like family type sitcoms where it's just like, and now we're done.
And now it's a new day.
The moment and the episode's over. Like this is it. And that it just ties it up. It's all complete. It's just such a nice little episode.
Yeah. So we kind of just touched on this, but like, what are your general feelings about this first episode?
I did love it. Again, it's just like instant nostalgia. Just watching anything, especially because when I was trying to watch it on a fairly large TV, the box.
Oh yeah,
like Disney
the aspect ratio is really small.
Yeah. They're super tiny, so that was already something. I love you know, the love overarching theme just of the entire episode. I do think the writing is amazing in the show already, so I'm just excited to just keep it going. But yeah, I mean, I can see, like, having seen Wonder Years actually more than this show, I definitely get how they were trying to parallel the two, but also in, like, a fun sitcom way, because Wonder Years is not really.
Yeah, from what I remember about Wonder Years, I feel like it's more dramedy than, like, sitcom.
Yeah, and it's not, like, in front of an audience. It's actually just, yeah. Anyway, it's, I just loved it. I love the kids versus the older cast and the adults. I love Mr. Feeney just already.
Yay, he's the best.
I'm excited.
Yay. I obviously very much love the show, so, and I have rewatched this episode many times in preparation for, like, the first episode of this podcast, so I feel like I know it very well at this point. But yeah, there's a lot of it's really funny to watch children act. Like, I just think that's really, like, interesting. Like, Corey often, like, super over gestured and, like, didn't properly breathe in between or, like, for his sentences, but he was also 11 and he was carrying the show, essentially. Like, the show was built around him. So yeah, I think he was great. And I really love just, like, how they very quickly introduce you to the dynamics of this family and the school and his friends and the world. I think it's a great first episode in terms of, you know, as far as pilots go. Very, very fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could tell you, like, a lot about the show just from the first episode, which is not something you can always do when you watch the pilot of anything.
That's what they're supposed to do, but sometimes they don't always.
But sometimes they fail.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's really nice, and I think that speaks a lot to the show and just how they tried to make it.
So what's the lesson, Syd? What did we learn from this episode?
Goodness, what did I learn? Love is the most important thing. All you need is love. Apparently.
All you need is love. Copywritten. Sorry. Also, growing up, your priorities change. And that's okay.
Yeah, and just based on how it was portrayed with Feeney, too, love doesn't always have to be with, like, in a romantic way. It's just friends and fam as well.
Just general love. The whole, like, love is everything. I feel like, based on my knowledge of the show, is an overarching theme. So
yeah,
that's going to be fun to dive into, especially when we get more, like, we learn more about, I'm not going to spoil it, other characters' backstories. We get a lot of background, and I think that's going to be fun. I'm so excited for you to, like, learn about these characters. Oh, this is exciting.
I'm just looking forward to it. I feel like somehow I just missed out on the Boy Meets World just craze for a while. And honestly, I thought that it was, like, only on Disney for some reason. Like, that's where my mind was.
Oh, yeah.
So when I even figured out that it was on ABC and was part of the huge, like, Friday night lineup, it was very weird because I was like, no.
Yeah, it aired on Disney Channel a lot when I was a kid. Mostly during the late night block, they would play their, like, college years on Disney Channel at, like, after, like, 9 or 10, which I loved. That was the first place I watched it, was there, and then they switched it to ABC Family a lot, and yeah. So it's been airing all over, but I've been desperate for it to be on a streaming service for years. I'm so glad they put it on Disney Plus. So that's the end of our first episode.
Yay. We did it.
We did do it. Do you want to plug our socials? We have social media.
Sure. At the moment, we have an Instagram and a Twitter at The Lost Years Pod on both. You can find us there.
Right now, it's just our art, which is incredible and made by Syd.
Oh, thank you.
It looks fantastic.
Very 90s.
Very 90s. But, like, you made it in, like, 2 hours, and it looks amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for making it. We also have an email. You can email us at thelostyearspod@gmail.com.
Yeah. What'd you think of the episode? Watch episode 1 and let us know.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I know you weren't asking me, but I loved it.
No, it's been great fun.
I had a good time. All right. Well, until next time.
You're Tay.
You're Syd.
Just like it's always been.
What else do you need to know?